started. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us for this webinar. Everyone's online, reaching your global clients through digital marketing. This online event is brought to you this morning by the MAPIT Alliance, or the Maryland Partners in International Trade. And I'm Rebecca Bellinger, the Executive Director of the Center for Global Business at the Robert H. Smith School of Business at the University of Maryland, College Park. And I will be serving as the moderator this morning. On our agenda today are three main points. First, to make the case for understanding why culture matters in digital marketing. Then we'll walk you through some strategies and examples to help you in planning, which really gets to the how of our topic. And finally, we'll connect you with a few resources in Maryland that can help you reach your clients abroad. And certainly we'll leave time for questions and hopefully some good answers at the end. I do need to remind you all of a few things to help us move very smoothly through our agenda. First, this webinar is being recorded. It will be made publicly available via our website and emailed out to all participants afterwards for future viewing. We will handle questions via the chat function. Throughout the presentation, please feel free to send your questions to everyone, and we'll try to get through as many as we can in the order in which they are received at the end of the presentation. Following the end of the presentation, you'll see a pop-up window with a link to take our 2-minute survey about the video, or about the webinar, excuse me. It is really critical to receive your feedback to make sure that future webinars delivered by the MAPIT Alliance do meet your needs where you are with your business. I'd also like to remind everyone to please keep your cameras off and your microphones on mute throughout the presentation, unless, of course, you are a fellow presenter. And finally, if there are any technical difficulties on our end or yours, we thank you in advance for your patience. Before we move into the main content of the webinar, I will take just another moment or two to introduce the MAPIT Alliance, which is a sponsor for today's webinar. The MAPIT Alliance brings together key partners from industry, local, state, and federal government, and higher education in Maryland to raise awareness of existing export promotion programs, facilitate greater access to and usage of these resources, and build new collaborative, globally focused programs. You will hear from 3 of the 4 main partners this morning: the USIAC, or U.S. Bustin Center in Baltimore, the Maryland Department of Commerce, and the University of Maryland Center for Global Business. Each speaker will introduce their unit before they're part of the webinar this morning. The DEC, or the District Export Council, is the 4th member. If you're not familiar with the DEC, it is a nonprofit organization made up of leaders from across the local business community who have been appointed as volunteers by the Secretary of Commerce. It is meant to provide peer-to-peer advice and programming for local firms. One of our speakers this morning, Bob, actually is a member of the DEC, as am I, and both the USIAC and the Maryland Department of Commerce participate in the DEC as well. So while all 4 of these partners in the MAPIT are separate entities that you may or may not have worked with already, we come together in this alliance to share information, collaborate on programming for the benefit of companies like yours in the state of Maryland, and connect you with a vast network of other entities that support international trade at the local, state, and federal levels. Today's webinar is content that we have developed to support one part of the export cycle or process. And this graphic that you see on your screen is one developed by MAPIT, and it really serves as a useful tool in understanding the steps in exporting, and also shows you where in the process of exporting you might be if today's content is useful and relevant to your business. So both the previous MAPIT Alliance webinar on website globalization a couple of weeks ago, and this one on digital marketing fit well into what we have identified as step 6, which is finding your customers abroad. In future MAPIT webinars, we'll reference this graphic as a foundation of our work. And with that, I would like to turn it over to my esteemed colleague at the Robert H. Smith School of Business, PK Kanan, to help us understand why culture matters in digital marketing efforts. PK, all yours.
Thank you very much, Rebecca, and thank you everybody for coming here this morning. And I'll just going to be talking a little bit about, the cultural matters that we have facing when we try to acquire customers abroad. Now, here's a slide that I have which talks about how digital environment has really changed the way businesses acquire customers. And if you look at this particular slide, you see on the left-hand side the environment And in the environment, you see search engines, and you see social media and user-generated content, and then you see platforms and two-sided markets. And all these environmental changes have actually changed consumers' behavior. And consumers' behavior have really changed across the globe. And although the technology that we are looking at are all the same across the globe, the way consumers behave is dictated by a lot of cultural factors. And so some of the cultural factors and how it affects the way you would do business in an international market is what I will be talking about at this point. Now, if you look at this particular slide that we have on Hofstede's cultural dimensions, what this really does is to compare a few different countries on different dimensions of how they are culturally different. So let's take a few of them. So here I have China, India, Japan, and United States compared on power distance. And if you look at power distance, that is the distance between the classes, or between rich and poor, the have and the have-nots. And if you look at it, that's the lowest in the US, whereas in India and China, they are the highest. In terms of individualism, US market, US consumers are highly individualistic, whereas Chinese customers, and to the extent Eastern customers, are collectivistic. And then in terms of masculinity, you see a difference. And in terms of uncertainty avoidance, you see that Japanese consumers are very high on this dimension of uncertainty avoidance, which really has implications for how we would market to them. And then in terms of long-term orientation, in terms of indulgence, again, there are a lot of changes that you see across all these countries. Now, how do these things really matter? Now, let's take an example, right? Now, here is two customer journeys. That is how customers start from the process of the pre-purchase process and go through a purchase process and then end up buying something and then talk about it after they have purchased. So you have two processes juxtaposed here. One is the Western journey, and below that is the Chinese journey. So if you were to look at the Western journey, shopping is very efficient in the digital environment. You search for wedding favors on Google, and then you browse for inspiration and settle on chocolates, let's say using Pinterest and Instagram. You go to wedding websites, you go to brand websites, you go to style blogs, and then you again go to a brand website and purchase some cufflinks for the groom, and then search for small gift bags and read product reviews, receive suggestions and wedding invitations on Amazon. And then you keep doing a few things in Amazon, purchase the invitation and the gift bags, and then you go to a chocolatier's website and browse for chocolates, and then you purchase the chocolates at the chocolatier's website. Now, if you look at this, this can be done very efficiently in the US and the Western market. Now, how is it compared to what might happen in China? So here is an example. So everything happens on Taobao, Tmall. You click on a personalized landing page, content is based on previous activity, see the story for 8 ideas for wedding favors, click on it, read and follow the embedded links to products and stores, post a question to the community asking what people buy for wedding favors, receive responses within minutes, pursue a suggestion for chocolates and chat with the merchant to find out more, select the specialty chocolate and small gift bags, and then join a brand fan party on Tmall, browse the brand's latest collection, and decide to order cufflinks for fiancé. And then receive a notification that a live streaming show hosted by a favorite celebrity is about to start. You click to watch it and order the featured perfume while viewing it. So add all the items, click one click, and you're done. So if you look at how the customer journey evolves in Chinese market compared to a Western market, you find that there is a huge difference, right? And this is a seamless kind of an experience that you have in the Chinese market, and the Chinese customers are now used to it. And so if you look at what are the takeaways from this is you need to understand the role of seamless and social shopping within collectivistic cultures, China being a good example of that. So you need to pay particular attention to your website for making social shopping more accessible to everybody so that people can talk to each other and make decisions in a social circle rather than looking at reviews and deciding for themselves as an individualistic culture. And if you look at another example from China, and this is the power of platform that is in a mobile app. So Meituan Dianping is an in-app function. So it is an app within your cell phone, and you open it up, and you can do lots and lots of different things, even with a single app. You can, get movie and show tickets like Fandango, restaurant reviews like Yelp, ride hailing like Uber, home rentals like Airbnb, hotel booking like Booking.com, food delivery using like Grubhub, travel booking like Kayak, supermarket like Walmart. And you see that these are things that are provided, and Meituan Dianping has been very, very popular in China. People use it for one-stop shopping. They really don't have to go out of the app in order to do any kind of shopping. And so power of platforms is great, and it is evolving in all the global market. Just as we have Amazon and other kind of platforms here, you find that it is app-based platforms that really are becoming very common in China and other places. So if you take up Japan, you have Rakuten. Rakuten is a similar platform in Japan. And why would you want to go to a platform in Japan? The reason you would go for a platform in Japan is because, as we said, Japanese consumers are high uncertainty avoidance, and they really like to know a brand before they buy anything. So if you're not a very branded product, and if you don't have a strong brand, then you may want to think about joining with a platform initially in order to acquire customers. Now in India, Flipkart is big. Now why would you want to join Flipkart? Indian customers are pretty much similar to the US customers in their orientation, but the big thing in India is fulfillment. It's very difficult if you're on your own trying to fulfill the orders, because the addresses there can be a nightmare. Flipkart has developed network of fulfillment, third-party providers who can actually get the product to the people who order it, which can be a big problem in India. So there are ways in which you can team up with platforms, and initially it may be a little more expensive, but if you want to build your brand, that would be a way to go in these markets. So the importance of brand building, you can see from here that the effect of brand credibility on product evaluation is more pronounced in the collectivistic cultures than in individualistic cultures like the US. And the effect of information from social sources on product evaluation is also pronounced in collectivistic cultures more than in individualistic cultures here. So brand building happens through word of mouth. And to the extent that you are able to harness the word of mouth, either on platforms or otherwise, when you are looking for acquiring customers, your acquisition costs may actually come down. Now, the other important thing to understand between cultures is designing the feedback outlets. Customers in collectivistic cultures like China and India and Japan have richer online communication with other customers than in individualistic customers, leading to richer and more qualitative feedback that is very useful for people to make decisions on. And you have to understand that online reviews are more positively biased in collectivistic cultures. They are not going to come out and say bad things, or even if they felt what they felt, they may not write about it. And so there will be a positivity bias. So it is important to understand what the feedback really means and adjust your service and fulfillment accordingly. So it is very important, right? If you're going for options, for designing website options, you got to have clear feedback and online reviews so that customers can congregate there and exchange information about their product and service that you see. And if you're going to markets like India, it is absolutely important that you start thinking about mobile and mobile websites, because in India, not too many people have a desktop or laptops, but everyone has a mobile, and mobile is being used in a big way in order to do shopping. So this gives you, in a nutshell, the kinds of things that you can do if you understand the culture and understand how digital environment is evolving in these countries. I will give it over to Bob now.
Hello, good morning. Thank you, Professor Cannon, for sharing all the different cultural related best practices and knowledge. So we're going to make a transition from academia to industry. We didn't compare notes, but what we're going to talk about are very consistent in terms of exporting how you should consider cultural and language differences. So my name is Bob Zhang. I'm the founder and general manager for Usable Solutions. We're a website and digital marketing solution provider. I'm also the principal consultant for Penn Consulting Group. We're a global strategy advisory business diplomacy consulting service provider with a focus on East Asia. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and dive into my slide. So before we think about a digital strategy, we really need to take a step back. And because digital strategy should be a part of your overall marketing strategy, so in many senses, it expands your global reach and range. It supports your overall marketing and business initiatives. Before you think of digital, you must develop a marketing strategy for expanding globally. So if questions you want to ask yourself are like, are you ready to do business internationally? Have you outgrown your domestic market? Do you have a product or service that can be sold to international customers? And is there a market for your product and services? So always begin with some homework, right? So market research, look at your competitors, how they're doing, maybe use that as a reference and to give you some ideas of what it takes in order to expand into certain markets. And also, it's always important to visit your target market in person. So out of all the clients I've been working with, if they're successful, they always have been to their targeted markets multiple times a year. They make friends there, they know the culture, they know the locals. So it's really important that, if you want to participate in some kind of trade shows or trade win, for example, those are best practice. So next slide. So digital marketing is often derived from in the process of preparing your business for international expansion. So the big condition is that your business is ready to expand globally and you identify your best potential market. So self-evaluation steps, common steps including self-evaluation to make sure that your business is ready. For example, you have the right people, operations, you have the financials, etc. In-depth understanding of your target market, the regulation, language, culture, and the competition, not the international, but also domestic competitions as well. Prepare your entry to understand what's needed from a legal standpoint, localization, how you wanted to approach marketing, how do you want to establish your operation model. So these are the common steps that you would need to do before you think about your digital marketing strategy. And once you have these steps finalized, then your digital strategy will be developed to support your overall operation. So first of all, you wanted to set high-level objectives for your digital marketing based on what you've decided, right, in terms of your overall marketing strategy. So understand your target market, understand how you wanted to do the entry. And so the examples for digital marketing objectives may be increasing brand awareness, increase lead generation, website traffic, fans, increase conversion, sales, increase customer loyalty, for example. So once you have the high-level objectives for digital, then you can pick the right channels. So it's really important that you spend the time to understand your customer journey, as Professor PK said, so that each culture may have a different customer journey. So understanding that will help you identify what's the right digital channel to promote your business or your product. So website, content marketing, social media, paid search, organic search, SEO, email marketing, paid search, for example, mobile, and others like, for example, I think Professor PK also mentioned is e-commerce, live stream shows, kind of like equivalent version of our QVEC, if you will. So those are the important digital channels that you wanted to think about. So here I also have a slide about customer journey. Since Professor PK already touched on it, I'm going to be very brief. So think of you're buying something, you always, there's a journey that you go through the process of seeing the things from different channels, different places, maybe seeing your friends having one of them. So then you decide to buy. So the process is similar, but you need to really add the factors like a cultural, technology preferences of the local customer. Okay. With that, I'm going to touch on a little bit about analytics. So I think the first webinar we had, we talked about how we can use analytics to see international traffic or interest. So this may be a great key performance indicators of your brand or your website and certain piece of content to see that if you have interest from different countries. So in Google Analytics or whatever analytics software that you may use, there are ways to look at your like your demographics, for example, like a language and location. So in this case, I pulled an example of you can see the places where you have your top visits, right? So in this case, the United States followed by Spain, Germany, and United Kingdom. So if you have a certain group of visits that's significant, you may want to look into by click on the particular country to look at where do we have all the interest. Okay. Also, so you can also narrow down by country by look at different, like for example, this is Europe. This is the region where you can narrow down to see where the traffic come from. Also, you can take a look at by within a country to see which regions they're coming from. So these data will give you some idea on where your potential market may be. The next thing I want to touch on is content. So able to serve the right content to the right audiences is really important, especially when you are talking about international. So you need to be able to identify the key messages and also the landing pages, develop landing pages, microsites, etc. So also in terms of language, so you have to be basically understand the local customer. So don't just translate, but localize. Because for example, like American English is very different than the British English. They would call it French fries, they call it chips, right? So not to mention some other languages or regions that has different languages, different culture. So, and also cultural considerations, for example, if you are targeting senior citizens in Asian countries, so you may want to market your product with with their children, because in the Asian culture, the children take care of their elderly in a very involved way. So in terms of developing a content strategy, once you understand your channels and once you understand how you wanted to approach your target market, so it's important to develop a content strategy so that you can establish a process in terms of managing all your digital content. So it's similar to how you manage your domestic content. Basically, it's generating, develop, approve, publishing, and process your content to your international websites and different digital channels. But you really need to think about who's doing what, when. If you need to engage an outside vendor, for example, expertise, anyone needs to engage to be translating or reviewing your content. Those are really important factors to think about. Another thing is multilingual content strategy. It's something that you can classify your content so that you don't have to translating everything. So translating whatever is relevant or essential for your targeted audiences. You can build a microsite or you can build a landing page that has the important content. So in this case, you can leverage something like a Google Translate, for example, for translating non-essential content, but have human translation, localized translation for those essential content. And this is also a good practice for domestic audiences because certain websites, if you're a state or government, nonprofit, you may want to translate your content into different languages. So website is really the foundation of all digital channels. Designing a good website is really important to appeal the local customers, right? So like a visual elements, for example, the way that certain color may work for certain culture and mean different things, the layout and functionalities. Other than that is just domain. So pick your domain based on what you're looking to do. So there are 3 common domains, like a country code, for example, like example dot the country code. CN means China, IN means India, for example. So this is a more official and targeted. So you will need like a new domain, but the new domain sometimes may or may not be available in that country. Or you can use this, create a subdomain by using your current website, like for example, cn.example.com. So this is a lot easier to set up, but it's a lot less targeted, but you can use it for general international use. The easiest way may be developing something like a shorter, like a landing page. It's like a directory, so example.com/cn, for example. So you can use for like a trade show or attending an event that you need to showcase some of your services or products. Okay, so here are some fun examples I found. So this is a Pizza Hut in China. So, and this is also something that they do in South Asia and Japan. Basically, this is an example for localization. And last summer I went to China. This is my family took me to a pizza place. This is what they ordered. The seafood with shells, and you have a durian flavored pizza. So this is an example how they adopting their local culture and demand. So this is P&G. This is their fiber brand. So they literally took a whole new level approach. Basically, they made a poem. It translates stuck at home, not fat. Spring has flowers, and you beat others, for example. So these are very, very traditional message that they are sending to their Chinese customers in order to get the appealing so they can consider their brand. Here's the Starbucks.in. That's turmeric latte is considered as a golden milk or golden tea in India. It's a mixture with different spices and honey and all that. So it's a traditional remedy for cough or cold or other infections. So this is how you localize to appeal the different cultures. Here is another example from Hopkins. Basically, Hopkins is a little bit different. They don't really have to necessarily target a lot of, in terms of branding and awareness, because they already have a very solid brand internationally. So they're basically targeting a very narrow segment of customers. They're very wealthy. They can afford to get healthcare without certain type of insurance. So this is their subdirectory that they have to target those patients. They're here. They know what they're doing. They know what kind of healthcare they want to get. So this is a very targeted example. Here's another example from Nike. So they actually use the subdirectory /CN for their China website. So they basically leverage some design element that people are staying home, but also use the color red. So as you can see, the lower portion of the of the slide. So this translates us. So red culturally is very significant for the Chinese culture because it means something like good fortune, joy, very energetic. So this is how they customized or localized their website. Under Armour is a little bit different. They do have their .cn domain, but they're new in terms of competing with Nike or Adidas. They're kind of like a new kid that they offer different type of brand, and technology is kind of cool. So this is very, very different, very American brand. So there's not a whole lot localization we can find on their brand, but because they're different. So once you have your website, once you have some digital channels building, one thing to consider is to help create a good content by doing some international keyword research. So I'm going to briefly talk about different search engines a little bit without going too technical. So as you know, different countries, they have different language and culture, but they also use certain different search engines. So Google is obviously the most accepted search engine, but in certain areas like China, for example, Russia, they also have their own search engine. So your market strategy, digital marketing strategies to use paid search, then you really need to use like a Baidu index, for example, you're doing that in China to look at doing your keyword research. Otherwise, you're not going to get the accurate results. Another consideration is region versus languages, because, for example, French, Spanish, they're official languages for 20 plus countries. So you need to be mindful of what version of French or what version of Spanish you're using. The Chinese, similar, they may have simplified or traditional Chinese, like Mandarin versus Cantonese in terms of dialogue. So these are the considerations you need to think about before you go into do your keyword or content research. It's always a good idea to work with a local subject matter expert to research or guide you through the relevant keywords and culture for your digital channel. Here's a little map to give you some idea on different countries, how they're using search engines. So as you can see, Google obviously is the top search engine for many, many countries other than, for example, China, Russia, Japan is 70%. It's a majority, but it's lower than most other countries. So this just gives you a flavor of how you should consider localized and consider different technologies. Other considerations, this is a little bit more technical. So you also need to work on work with someone who understands international SEO or digital best practice, for example, to tell the search engines what to do for your website in terms of geo-targeting. Search Console, like a webmaster tools, those are the great tools that you can use to configure geo-targeting. Always track analytics, understanding your user behavior. There are different tools that you can use, like a Baidu Analytics, of Google being the most popular. There are certain tags, like language tags, you need to really tell the search engine what language and location your site is targeting. For example, you have British English, you have American English. So link building is also an important aspect. Basically, you wanted to work with local partners to to help drive websites, local traffic to your website, so that can help you build stronger brand reputation. So how to make it more manageable? Unless you are really a big company, but a lot of medium, smaller companies, they always struggle with resources. So based on our experience, you always want to start with something small, something that you think that's the best product you can offer, one or two products instead of the entire catalog. Always work with something that you understand, that you know is going to do well. So if you are already selling to international customers, think about how you can leverage digital to perhaps resolve your business problems. Maybe like digital may help make it easier for my customer to place orders, or maybe a website, international website loads faster. Maybe if I host it close to my customers. And also maybe I can test additional product or services through digital channels. Maybe it's cheaper than traditional channels. So these are the reasons that to help you think about how you can leverage digital to increase your sales or save cost. Other tips, for example, you can involve someone in your company if you know somebody that may understand the culture, talk to that person. Normally they're very eager to help, so that way you can understand the target market a little bit better. So work with a good translation company. Don't just translate, but make sure that they understand certain content has to be localized, that they know how to do localization research for you guys. We do have a diverse community. Maybe we can, in this area, we have sister states, sister city programs, so you can leverage and network with them. That's a great way to understand the local culture. You can also hire international students, for example, from the targeted market as an intern. So that way the student can be able to help you with a lot of researches and help educate you with the culture aspect. With that, I'm going to jump into some case studies. So these are all local companies. Here, let's see. Okay, these are all local companies, and so we worked before. Starting with MP3 car. So they specialized in the car electronics, mainly focus on the domestic market to begin with. So they started to sell one or two products through their existing relationship to Europe. So later on, they launched on Amazon Europe, so that they started to sell and is doing well, but they ran into a lot of issues. For example, regulation for electronics, European countries, EU, they require lead-free, for example, tax regulations, currency, because the currency fluctuate every day. Sometimes they make 15%, sometimes they may make 10% or 8%, depends on how the currency works. They have a lot of challenges with returns because the warehouse and everything are here based in the U.S. They have marketing challenges, language translation challenges. So, however, they were able to later streamline a lot of these through technology. So the owner actually launched another company basically to help. It's called Webbox, to help streamline e-commerce through technology. So this is really how involved this can be. So the owner started another company. The next one is the Bustin board. They're a cool skateboard and longboard brand. They're a Maryland company. So they really wanted to leverage their brand. Basically, it's a high quality. They want to target premium brand. They want to position themselves as a premium brand in the Chinese market, because I think it's starting this next Olympic, I think it got postponed. Skateboarding is one of the Olympic sports. So a lot of emerging markets are investing into skateboarding. So they started with working with a distributor through an existing relationship. I think it was from one of their manufacturer partners. So they were able to work with a distributor to sell to skateboard stores across China. And so they later on think maybe digital can help their customers to order easier, place orders and faster. So they started looking for online sales. So in China, it's hard to build a website, do your own online marketing or like e-commerce. So they have to really leverage Taobao, JD, Tmall. These are the large, similar to Amazon, eBay, if you will. These are the larger e-commerce players in China. So but the cost of entry is very, very different. So for someone who's just get started, maybe Taobao is a good place to start versus JD and Tmall are way more expensive. So they continue to face pricing, online channel, graphic, for example, localization, domestic competition challenges. But that's how they got started to help solve a problem, to help their customers to place orders easier. This is a very unique one, AFCR, which is stands for Asian Fund for Cancer Research. So they are a nonprofit headquartered in Hong Kong. They're co-founded by Maryland-based National Foundation for Cancer Research. So what they're doing is trying to engage the local partners in Asia and promote global collaboration and funding cancer research. So what they're trying to do is basically to have ways to engage their audiences. So they leverage a lot of different nonprofit technologies, and also there are different grants that you can leverage if you're a nonprofit or 501c3 organization. So they do have a nfcr.org, which is a dedicated domain that they acquired. It's very expensive, but they acquired through the local channel, and it's a bilingual mirror site. So it's all human translation. That means when you update one version, you have to update another. So it's more to it, but more accurate. So they use Google Analytics to track their behavior, their customer behavior, and also their website performance. They use Amazon AWS, which is the cloud technology for nonprofit, with a data center in Asia. So that it loads faster, it's closer to their customers. They use also Google for nonprofit for pay-per-click to help promote awareness and help drive traffic to their site. Other than that, it's just social media and Facebook and Twitter is basically all similar to what we do here. So with that, just the parting in close, digital marketing strategy should be really part of your overall marketing strategy. And think about before you think about digital, you need to think about a marketing strategy, how you want to expand globally, understanding your target market and culture. Don't just translate, localize. So communicate with your customers in their own terms. Also start small and grow from there. So leverage your existing relationships and what's available. So with that, I'd like to introduce you to Colleen Fisher and from the U.S. Commercial Services. Thank you.
Thanks, Bob, for all those great resources. It really made it accessible for some of us who aren't tech whizzes. And I think the case studies and also the best practices from some companies that are around here can really help companies figure out what the options are and what's available in different scales. So as Rebecca mentioned at the top, Bob is a member of our District Export Council, and we have all this expertise here in Maryland to help companies export. My name is Colleen Fisher. I'm the director of the U.S. Commercial Service Office in Maryland. It's also known as the Baltimore Export Assistance Center. Just a bit about our organization. We are, the U.S. Commercial Services is the lead trade promotion agency of the United States government. We're part of the U.S. Department of Commerce. We have a team of 6 here in Maryland, and we help companies export overseas through trade consulting and providing assistance in over 100 cities in more than 75 countries. Through our network overseas, which is really comprised of commercial diplomats at embassies and consulates. Within the MAPIT Alliance, that includes Rebecca's team at the University of Maryland, Jessica's team at the Maryland Department of Commerce, and the District Export Council. We are the federal partners. We're the U.S. Department of Commerce. And all of us work together to help companies get started in exporting or increasing their sales overseas to new global markets. And our office specifically offers services for Maryland companies. I'm just going to talk briefly about 3 specific services that relate to the topic of this webinar, digital marketing, but you can feel free to get in touch with our team, as I mentioned, we're based in Baltimore, about any other services you might be interested in at this time. So as you see on this slide, there's really 3 services I wanted to talk about. The first is International Sales Kit. And basically, a sales kit is a fancy word for marketing materials. And as you guys learned from this presentation, marketing and sales in other countries can vary greatly from those marketing efforts in the United States. And one useful tool our team can help you and your company with is to develop an international sales kit. This kit serves as a high-level overview of your company's products and capabilities beyond the information covered on your website and your standard U.S. product literature. And we help modify it to be specific to the benefits for each target country. As Bob said, you saw each country has different tastes, and PK said it's really important to make sure your message is resonating in your target country. So included in this international sales kit is any market-specific competitive information, such as your company's ability to offer terms or finance. And the kits are extremely useful to potential partners in other countries. So if you hire a sales agent, a rep, or distributor, this information will really help them promote your company. So typically it includes a review of your corporate PowerPoint slide deck, your one-page marketing document for that target country, and then a distributor agent introductory letters if you are looking for a new distributor or agent. If you participated in the last MAPIT webinar, you learned a little bit more about the next service on this slide, our website globalization review. It costs $100, and because it's a fee-based service, but takes us about half a day to put together for your company. And what we do is we look at your company's website and provide improvements related to international search engine optimization. As Bob said, not everyone's using Google, although most are using their country's Google browser, and international visitor appeal. Globalizing your website is one of the most important and impactful things your company can do regarding international marketing and sales, because the web has become the medium of business, particularly international business. And feedback we've received from foreign buyers indicates they'll not reach out to companies, particularly U.S. companies, that are obviously not capable and interested in international business based on a review of the company's website. So we really walk you through how to make that obvious that you are interested in doing international business on your homepage. And it's pretty simple. A lot of it is low resource implications, and it's not too expensive. So we highly recommend you take a look at that service and get in touch with us. And then last but not least, we have a few services that are signature services. They look a bit different right now. As you can imagine, we're conducting them virtually. But if you go to trade.gov/virtual-services, you can learn about some of those services. And essentially, we do a lot of initial market checks, looking at markets for you that you might want to explore and giving you feedback on how your product resonates with locals there. We also do virtual matchmaking if you are looking for partners or buyers overseas. Surprisingly, that's continuing in quite a few countries, but often it's virtual introductions and a lot of digital meetings and kind of Skype or Zoom meetings. And then last but not least, we do due diligence reports for companies. So in case you are kind of scouting out a partner and wondering if they're a good fit, we can do some background research on them through our overseas network. So get in touch with us. We are happy to help. We think that it's really important to have a digital marketing strategy that fits all these pieces together. And we're proud to be part of this MAPIT Alliance. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Jessica Reynolds, to talk to you guys a little bit more about some grant programs that can help you pay for some of these services and hopefully help you focus on your international efforts during this time where we're all working from home. Thanks.
Great. Thank you, Colleen. I appreciate that. So I am Jessica Reynolds. I'm the Senior Director of the Office of International Investment and Trade at the Maryland Department of Commerce. Apologies, I do not have video like my colleagues here for this particular platform, but happy to speak with you all nonetheless. Our office is responsible for three main goals, which are to increase exports from the state of Maryland, to attract foreign business into the state to create jobs, and to market the state internationally. So today, we're focusing on that first item, which is assisting companies to export, and specifically through digital marketing. So I'd like to go over the state programs we have that can support those efforts. The main program we have that most companies are very interested in is the ExportMD grant program. This program offers eligible Maryland companies up to a $5,000 reimbursement towards their export marketing activities. Most companies have typically used the program for trade shows and travel, but of course, during a global pandemic, these are not realistic activities for many companies. So we are trying to let everyone know that we actually have had changes to this program, which allow companies to use the entire reimbursement towards digital marketing activities. The program does involve a 1/3 cost share by companies, so that's important to keep in mind. That the maximum expenses under this program would actually be $7,500 in order to receive the maximum reimbursement of $5,000. So the reason this is worth noting is for anyone who has actually participated in our ExportMD program in the past, is that the category limits associated with digital marketing activities have been increased recently. The SBA was very flexible with us, and as many of you may know, they partially fund our ExportMD program through the STEP grant that is received by states. So they've been able to pretty quickly make these adjustments given COVID-19 to allow for this greater flexibility. This actually, for digital marketing, there's increases for a couple of different areas. I want to list them out for you. So first is fees on shipping sample products. That's been increased, as well as cost of compliance testing products for entry to a foreign market, export research tool subscription, and then more specific to this webinar, the design of marketing material, as well as website and digital marketing activities. So returning to the application process for ExportMD, companies do need to meet certain qualifications to be eligible. We have those listed here on the slide. Those are to have business operations in Maryland. This is for Maryland small companies. They need to be a small business as defined by the SBA, be in business for at least 1 year and in good standing with the state of Maryland. And this does have to be for an international business initiative, specifically export marketing. And lastly, for digital marketing activities, we are looking for companies that already have an existing website. For companies that may need help getting a website up to start with, we can help refer you to some services that may be able to assist you with that. Then as far as how you would apply, you would work with one of our regional managers. Andrew Kreinig is one of those regional managers. He's on the line today, as well as we have 3 others. And we accept those applications on the 1st of every month. We do recommend companies begin the application process 1 month prior to the application deadline for non-travel grant activities, or at least a few days, depending on how fast you think you'll do the application. And for travel activities, just for future reference, we do recommend that you start looking at the application 2 months prior to planned travel. The reason for this is that there is a 1-month review period between the application deadline and the application award if a company is approved, and activities must take place after the award is granted. Once we receive the application on the 1st of the month, the regional manager would give the application a final check through just to make sure everything is taken care of, because we do want companies that apply to be successful with their applications. And then it goes out to our review committee. So that's the reason why there's sort of like a 1-month buffer in there that needs to be accounted for in order for the review committee to take a look at that and go through their process. So companies can receive a response on the award on the 1st of the following month. So from the time of award to the time, from the time of application to the time of award is 1 month. So now today we're on the 30th of April. So if anyone listening today would like to apply, our next application deadline is tomorrow. So I would recommend that you reach out to me pretty quickly after this webinar so we can try and connect you if you are very anxious to get started. We also have an application deadline on June 1st, which would allow you to begin activities July 1st at the earliest. So just keep that in mind with regards to the application process. We also offer some other programs to support exporters that I'll just take a moment here to mention. Our office does have 16 offices around the world that can offer up to 20 hours of free assistance towards market research or partner distributor searches. That is something that is still available and on offer to our exporters right now. We also work closely with the Center for Global Business at the Smith School of Business to match businesses with student teams for additional consulting support when semesters are normal. I know Rebecca will be going over their some adjustments they've made and other programs they have available now that we're also supporting and that our ExportMD program can be used towards as well. And then I believe it may have been mentioned earlier, but just to make sure it's covered, we also offer a 2/3 reimbursement for any of the export services offered by Colleen's office, for which there may be a fee. So with that, I will go ahead and pass this over to Rebecca Bellinger, and I'm happy to answer any questions about ExportMD or other programs at the end, or directly with anyone if you email me afterwards. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much, Jessica. I have introduced myself already, so I will jump right to talking about the center. The Center for Global Business at the Smith School at the University of Maryland College Park is the hub and driver of global activity at the school. We are really proud, as others have said, to be a part of this MAPIT Alliance. Our activities focus on student programming, research, thought leadership, faculty development, and capacity building in trade for business. We are one of 15 nationally recognized centers and a recipient of the Title VI grant program known as CYBER, or the Centers for International Business Education and Research. And this funding from the Department of Education supports all of our activities and expands our mission beyond the walls of campus. And the part of our mission that is most relevant to today's webinar is that we serve the state of Maryland for companies like yours seeking to be successful in the global marketplace. So I will mention one additional program or opportunity that you can participate in. Thank you, Jessica, for mentioning the Maryland Global Consulting Program or practicum that we offer in collaboration with the state. We are, as is the entire state of Maryland, still open for business, and we look forward to working with companies that are interested in working with a group of highly talented MBA or undergraduate students on consulting projects in the fall and spring semesters. The opportunity that I'll mention here today is the Global Marketing Virtual Internship Program. This is our newest initiative to support companies. It's meant to not just support you, but also provide training and professional experience for students, all the while adapting to this new virtual environment in which we're all operating. And really the content that we're focusing on for the virtual internship program is digital marketing, website globalization, and really anything else related to e-commerce that would meet your needs. So some key elements. First, if you are interested in participating and being a host company, you would provide a project for the students or student team to work on in a part-time capacity over the summer. You would also provide a supervisor and a team for these students to work with at your company, and a $1,000 stipend that would be paid via invoice to the university. Our side of this is that we will provide training in e-commerce concepts for the students. We will provide mentorship from myself, my team, and a marketing faculty member. All of the administration and the student matching process, we will do all of that as well. And if you are new to internships or need help designing a project or your program, we are more than happy to step in to help you do that as well. What's really great about this, in addition to everything else I've mentioned, is that we are also going to match the fee that you pay with our own funding from the Title VI grant, so that the students who will be working receive $2,000 as a stipend. So again, this is matching funds that we're bringing to the table to support students and your ultimate goals of successful e-commerce. And as Jessica mentioned, the other great part of this is that your fee is also refundable for or against the Export Maryland or ExportMD funds. We are accepting applications now. What you see on the website or what you see on the screen in front of you is an application deadline of May 4th. So that can certainly be extended. If you are interested in working with students, please go ahead and contact me directly or the center at global@rhsmith.umd.edu. And I can tell you that we already have applied to the program who are really excited and getting geared up to work with you. So that's what we have from our side of the Center for Global Business. Here's all of our contact information. And in the last couple of minutes remaining, What I would like to go to is some questions here. So the first question that we have, I think is for PK, and this is about Eastern Russia. So someone has said, I'd love to hear more about Eastern Russia. I think it's a collectivist culture. Are there any insights you can offer specifically about that region?
It's a good question. So in my slide, there is a website that I have indicated, that Hofstede's multiple dimensions. So you can actually go and put a country's name in there, and then they will actually come up with all the different dimensions and come up with comparisons across different dimensions. If you want to compare them across different countries, you could do that. You could, compare it with Switzerland, for example, or Ukraine. And so I think what you could do is that will give you, that's a resource that anybody can get. In addition to that, if you really want to get more information as to what the local culture is, you've got to do some secondary research. And as Rebecca pointed out, we could have students help in those kinds of activities.
Great. Thank you. And I understand my voice is going in and out. It is raining here, so I apologize if you missed anything from the presentation, my last slide. We do have one other question that I want to get to before we close. And this could be for Bob or Colleen or even Jessica. The question is, has the perception of U.S. brands changed at all with current politics, U.S.-China tensions perhaps? Should we de-emphasize or downplay U.S. origins or products, or doesn't it matter? I don't know who wants to take that.
I can try to give it a shot.
Okay.
So there are tensions. There are always tensions. If not trade, there may be something else. But anything that's made in the U.S. in terms of origin is considered as a higher quality. So historically we've seen probably worse, like right now. But I wouldn't, in my personal opinion, I wouldn't downplay necessarily, because we do have better quality products. So you wanted to think about how you want to position your brand and what are the customers. But you do want to also pay attention to what's going on in terms of local politics and how the market may react to certain things. But I wouldn't downplay the origin, that the fact that, for example, if it's made in USA.
Thank you. And the final question, if you'll indulge us just a couple of more minutes, the final question that we'll take: are there any examples of global marketing collaboration for companies in the digital economy, meaning technology or financial services? And perhaps that might be directed toward Colleen or Jessica, who have a good idea of other players in this space in the state or through the deck.
Sorry, Rebecca, could you repeat the question? I cut out a bit.
Are there any examples of global marketing collaboration for companies in the digital economy, technology or financial services?
The short answer is yes. We see a lot of companies that, work with a marketing company or partner, or go in, for example, if you have a complementary product and service and you're offering a full solution, you work with other companies to market that solution, often through like a local agent. And financial services, often, that can be the case, a suite of financial services going to Hong Kong or going to London or some of the other key financial markets. So the short answer is yes, it really depends on the industry and the company's partnerships, but it's certainly a more cost-effective way to go into overseas markets.
Great. All right. Thank you. And we have now run out of time. So I would like to say thank you to our panelists. Thank you to all of our participants for joining us, the MAPIT Alliance, this morning. Please don't forget to take the survey as you log off that will come up in the pop-up window. And please do feel free to reach out to any of us if we didn't get to your question, or if you have additional questions, you're looking for additional resources that come to you after the webinar. So thank you very much.